well. Hopefully you guys will be able to access it afterwards as well. Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Hopefully the session will be useful for you, but really is just a way to kind of get you sorted, get you ready, get you prepared, give you some information about Enterprise Rent-A-Car and their graduate management program in advance of the interview day on Wednesday, if you're taking part in that. But if not, it hopefully just gives you a bit of an insight to them in general. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Brereton and I am the Enactus UK Chief Operating Officer, which basically means that I am in charge of running the whole of the university programme with Enactus UK, from not only our kind of teams and our students and our projects, but also with all of our partnerships and our kind of strategic direction with Enactus UK as well. So before I joined Enactus UK, a year ago or so now, I actually worked for Enterprise for nearly 10 years and I joined them on my placement year whilst at university, and then after graduation went straight back to work for Enterprise as well. So I'm hoping that with my Enactus knowledge, with my Enterprise knowledge and over 10 years experience working for them, that today I will be in a good place to be able to support you, give you some insider tips and tricks as well, and really just help you understand a little bit more about Enterprise, who they are and what they do. I am going to try and remember to mention everything, but please do let me know if you've got any questions, anything I can support with or help with, and just put it in the chat and I'd be more than happy to kind of answer as we go throughout as well, because really this is just your opportunity to gain kind of the support from someone that's on both sides for you. So let's get started. So I need to try and figure this out now. There we go. Excellent. So what I thought we'd start with as well is just maybe a little bit of a introduction to Enterprise really as an organization, in case you aren't aware of who they are already, but also they may ask you, who knows, in an interview question, what do you know about Enterprise Rent-A-Car already? And this will hopefully just give you a bit of an insight into that as well. So Enterprise Rent-A-Car started in 1957 in St. Louis in America by Jack Taylor. So Jack Taylor is the kind of founding person of Enterprise Rent-A-Car and actually started Enterprise with only 7 vehicles on his fleet all those many years ago. Now, as you can see from on the screen now, nearly 70 years later, those 7 vehicles have gone up to 1.7 million vehicles. So he's done pretty well for himself in that time as well. And something that many people don't realize with Enterprise Rent-A-Car is they're really unique in that they are still family owned as an organization. So Chrissy Taylor, who is Jack Taylor's granddaughter, is still the owner of the organization and is incredibly cool person as well. She's really, really nice too. And someone that really kind of gets hands-on and obviously organizes and manages the business as a total. Now, that's something that's really interesting about Enterprise, because it enables them to be flexible, adaptable, and really kind of be able to kind of maneuver their business where they need to based on the current demands, any kind of external challenges as well, such as obviously we've had over the past couple of years. And I just think it's a really cool thing that it's still family owned even this amount of time later as well. And they are a really prominent family within Enterprise as well. They really do get involved. They're not kind of a silent investor. Now, as you can see from some of the statistics on the screen here, over the past 70 years or so, they really have grown exponentially with an annual revenue of £22.5 billion, over 80,000 employees across the world. As I said before, 1.7 million vehicles and over 9,000 airport location railway stations. And it's the world's largest network of vehicles in over 90 countries. Now, you might think, why is she telling me this? This is just some fun facts. And yet they are fun facts. But for me, this is a great way to show the scale of the organization, the opportunities that are available within the organization, and for you, hopefully the career growth and development that you can hopefully see that they have seen from obviously their development over the past few years. Now, to put that into context, when I joined Enterprise Rent-A-Car in 2011 now, so over 10 years ago. When I joined, we were only in 5 countries, so not 90 countries. We only had one main kind of operating arm, which was Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I'll talk to you about that in just a second. So you can see how fast and how quickly they have grown over the past few years, which again, all goes back to kind of their ability to kind of scale, to be flexible, and again, hopefully shows you the opportunities that are available to you at Enterprise Rent-A-Car as well. Now, as we move on, our products and services. So of course, Enterprise, I don't know why the vehicle range has gone funny like that. So it does say vehicle range. Oh my goodness, it's all clicking off now, isn't it? I just wanted to show you this because again, as I said, when I first started, there was just Enterprise Rent-A-Car as the kind of operational arm of Enterprise. Now you can see below here, there's now Enterprise Car Club, Enterprise Exotics, and Enterprise FlexiRent. Now, all of those kind of business lines add up to create the enterprise business model, which really does kind of appeal to every single kind of rental market that there possibly could be within the UK and vehicles. Now, Enterprise Rent, all of the cars that you could ever imagine, from your kind of small, teeny tiny cars, like your Igos, your Corsas, probably your first cars, really. Definitely my first car when I first got one, many, many years ago now, to your HGVs that you might see on the road. If you've ever seen a Costa, coffee lorry, HGV on a motorway, that is an enterprise vehicle. So you can see how kind of the scale of what they do as well. On top of that, now they've recently acquired a new business line where they do tractors, and they do kind of refrigerated lorries as well. So you can see like there really is that scale. Now, this impresses some people. Unfortunately, if you work at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, you don't necessarily always get to drive these vehicles. When you're a branch manager, you might do, but they also rent things like Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsche 911s. Now, this is in our exotic range, but again, it just shows you how many different types of vehicles there really is within the enterprise range. And when you're working for this organization, yes, you may just be renting cars, in inverted commas, but you can hopefully see that it's way more than that, and you really are kind of tapping into different business needs now. And again, I wanted to kind of show you this because it shows the scale of their growth over the past few years. When I started, there was just Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Now there's Exotics, now there's FlexiRent, now there's Car Clubs. So you might have seen car clubs on the kind of roads around your local towns or cities where you can rent cars for an hour at a time, or you can rent the HGVs for years at a time. So there really is, again, that flexibility in their range and what they offer. Now, thinking about what's important to enterprise, which for me is one of those things as to what's enabled them to kind of progress so well over the past few years, is looking at their values. Now, their values are exactly as they said, they're the kind of most important thing to enterprise. And this is what makes up their kind of vision, everything that they're wanting to kind of achieve within an organization. And it's something that as a graduate trainee, you are expected to know what these values are off by heart. On your first day in your kind of role as a graduate management trainee, you get given a little card to put in your personal wallet with these values on, because they want you to know them from day dot. So it affects everything you do in the business. I'm 99% sure it's still in my purse now. So that's how important it is in terms of having these values and knowing what they are. So I'm going to leave these on the screen for just a second. But what I thought I would do is just pick out a couple of things for you around them, which might be helpful as you kind of are going into the interview and what you might need to know. So first of all, why are values important? Well, values really show you what an organization is about. And having worked at enterprise for so long, I can tell you now, honestly, that they really do believe in the values that they have and really do incorporate them into everything that they do within their business. Now, if we just pick out a couple of these kind of values, and I'm talking from experience, but it's to give you kind of that insight into what kind of my lived experience is being at enterprise. So the brands are the most valuable thing we own. Now, enterprise understands the importance of brand and also the importance of developing that brand and ensuring that that brand is kept kind of as clean and as great as possible at all times. Now, this goes down to even the teeniest, tiniest details within the branches, such as the way in which things are presented, the way in which we kind of work with customers, so that across all of our operations, any kind of customer, whether you go into Heathrow Airport or whether you go into the branch in Leeds, that you're getting the same kind of experience from all of the kind of staff members within there. On top of that, that can go down to the list level as well, such as making sure that your branch is clean and tidy. Now, that sounds like a silly thing to say, but that really does all contribute to the brand that you're building within your local community. Now, this goes in hand with customer service is our way of life. Now, if I could give you any top tips for your interview and what you're kind of looking for in your career at Enterprise, is if you put customer first and customer service at the top of your priority list, you will not go wrong. Now, customer service to Enterprise is their bread and butter. They measure it day in, day out. They call customers to get surveys to understand their level of satisfaction. And to give you an insight into how they measure that, Enterprise use a 5-point scale. So completely satisfied, somewhat satisfied, neither nor, which is in the middle, which I always think is one of the worst ones you could ever get, somewhat dissat, and completely dissatisfied. Now, Enterprise only counts customers that are completely satisfied. So if you're somewhat satisfied, that's not good enough for Enterprise. So hopefully that just gives you a bit of an insight into how important customer service is. Now, we all know that there are challenging customers sometimes out there in challenging situations, and they may for whatever reason become kind of upset or kind of distressed or whatever it may be. Our job is to try and diffuse that situation and give them the best possible service that we can in order to help them in these situations. Because a lot of the time it comes from miscommunication or misunderstanding. And your job as a trainee, as a manager, in any role within Enterprise, is to keep that customer service at the forefront of your mind at all times. Now, over the years, this has meant that I've done some crazy things for customers, from I can't even think what I've even done to support them now, because it just becomes part of your everyday job, really, about how you really support them. But going out of my way to ensure that customers get to different places in time. If I didn't have a car available at the exact time that they wanted, I would pay for taxis or take them to train stations or take them across town to other branches to get cars. I've done things where if I'd known someone was getting married, I would give them a bottle of Prosecco in their car or give them something kind like a card or something. Like, that's how important customer service is to Enterprise. It's doing those little extra things that really will kind of help you to understand that process. And again, for context, nobody in Enterprise can get promoted without good customer service scores, because it's that important to what they do. So that's just something to bear in mind. Like, if you don't want to work in customer service, Enterprise might not be the place for you, because it really is that important to everything they do. Again, we work hard and reward hard work. Now, I'm not going to ever sit here on a call with you or when I speak to you individually to say that Enterprise is an easy place to work. It's not. Enterprise is hard. It's a challenge. It's longer hours than maybe what you've been used to, especially at university or maybe in other kind of professions. It's hard work. Sometimes it's not difficult work, but I would say that it's intensive, because especially if you're in busy branches, you've got lots of customers, there's lots of plates to spin, there's lots of things to do. But what that means is you never ever spend a day sat twiddling your thumbs thinking, what am I going to do later? What's my next plan of action? Like, you're on your feet, you're moving, you're constantly thinking about how you're going to be improving each kind of area of your business. And really, from day one, you're learning how to manage and run a business from the ground up, which is what I found the best possible thing. I would not be able to be in my position now as a COO of Enactus UK if I hadn't have had that grounding at Enterprise Rent a Car, who taught me the basics of running a business, because that's what you're doing all day, every day within your branches. Now, this doesn't come without reward, however, and Enterprise really, really strongly believes in rewarding hard work and those individuals that are working hard. And they do that through lots of different ways. Now, when you're a trainee, especially, or a placement student, if you're on the industrial placement as well, just to say in case anybody's on the call about that, something that you're always kind of targeted on or it's looked at is your sales figures, because that's something important to enterprise as well, is how well you sell. And we'll talk about that in just a second. And we'll talk about how, like, I'll give you some of my kind of insights into that too. Now, one way in which they reward the top sellers within organizations is through something called Elite Club. Now, Elite Club gives you the opportunity to go on days out, have like to Alton Towers, or go to London to Michelin star restaurants, all because you were good at sales, you were good at your job. So they do lots of different activities like that. Before COVID, obviously, and they used to be things in kind of the area that I worked in, which was in the East Midlands area, where they would do things called Euro Elite. So if you hit Elite Club 3 times in a row, you would get to go abroad for 3 days as a group with kind of senior members of staff from Enterprise Rent a Car, all paid for, all inclusive during your working week. So you didn't have to take your weekends as time off. But again, it's a way just to reward employees. Now, I think the biggest way in which they reward them, yes, there are some nice elements like that, such as elite clubs and days out that you might get, and area nights out, and all kind of fun things. Because you'll see on here, Enterprise is a fun and friendly place where teamwork rules. They really do believe in that value, and they try to make their environment as fun as possible. But for me, the way in which they reward hard work the most is through promotions and through that opportunity to progress. Now, in my 9.5, 10 years at Enterprise, throughout my time there, bearing in mind one of my years was a placement year before I went back to university, in between that time, I was promoted 9 times in less than 9 years. So it goes to show, if you work hard, your hard work really does get rewarded. Now, I'm not telling you that because I'm like, I'm amazing or anything like that, because that is not the case. But what I did well is I worked hard, and any one of you can do that and have those opportunities given to you as well. As you well saw before, with the growth and the scale of the opportunities at Enterprise, there really are kind of jobs constantly kind of growing as the organization grows, which are there to be filled by you. Now, one of the cool things that I don't know, I might mention again in a second, is, I don't know if you know this, but everybody at Enterprise starts in the same position. So whether you're Chrissy Taylor now, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Enterprise Rent a Car, whether you're the Senior Vice President of the whole of the UK, or the whole of Germany, or the whole of France, or wherever you may be, or whether you're a branch manager in Bristol or in Nottingham, or wherever you may be, every single person in Enterprise starts in the same position in the graduate management trainee. Now, that for me was one of the best things about working there, in that every single person in every single role I knew had done my job before me. So everyone had so many insights and tips and support and help. But also I felt really confident that when my branch manager or my area manager or city manager told me to do something, it came from a place of understanding because they'd been there and done it themselves, not from a place of they just thought that this was the best thing to do. So again, it really does help with that kind of progression piece and that kind of development piece. Now, there's lots of different other things here as well. Our doors are always open. Now, that refers to both inclusivity, but also that ability to be able to reach out to different people within Enterprise and kind of always ask questions and never feel afraid to do that and have that connection. Also, we strengthen our communities one neighbourhood at a time. Now, Enterprise are involved in so many different like philanthropic opportunities, one of which, Enactus, which they have been involved in for over 15 years now and are one of our longest standing partners in the UK. So there's lots of examples of how they kind of really live their values. But if I were you, this was something that I would really focus on and start to really dive in deeper about how you understand what these mean, but also how you can demonstrate these and live these values as leaders moving forward. Now, we're going to move on to the progression, which I talked about a little bit just before. If anyone does have any questions or anything, or if I'm going too fast, please just shout or just pop it in the chat. I'm more than happy to kind of pause and answer any questions if you do have any as well as we're going through this. So this kind of career trajectory here shows how everyone, as I just said a second ago, starts as a management trainee and then works their way through different positions. Now, you can see that people are kind of all in the rental field to begin with. Then at branch manager, that's when many people kind of diversify off and go into maybe more specific areas based on their particular skill sets. So for me, I got to branch manager. I was a branch manager of I'm trying to think now, it's a while ago, 3 locations, so 3 separate branches before I moved into human resource management and went into training and development, because that was something that I was really passionate about developing the kind of next generation of enterprise people, really being that supportive person when they first join, and kind of can reach out to if they need anything, which again really helped me transition into this role as well, and the support that I give to students and kind of across our partnerships as well. So there is the opportunity to do that as well when you get to that kind of level. Now, often a question I'm asked at this point is, well, can you go into that straight away? And the honest answer is no, you cannot go into that straight away. Like, everybody in the organization starts as a management trainee, and as I said, then works their way up. Oh, I'm going backwards on the slides, works their way up on the different kind of positions as they get promoted through their time. Now, the time at which you get promoted really is dependent on you, your drive, your determination to get through the different things, and also your flexibility. There are always jobs available, but maybe if you're waiting for that specific job in the specific area in your like local kind of region, it might take a bit longer, and that's fine. That's your choice to wait for that. But if you want to progress quickly, having that flexibility to kind of move around, to be able to kind of jump into different opportunities, is really kind of then rewarded through that progression and that kind of movement up. Now, often I would say that a management trainee, their first kind of promotion will come within the year, but often can be a lot quicker than that. Now, as a industrial placement student, so as an intern, you start on the exact same scheme as the management trainee does. And in my time of being a management trainee, I progressed to a management assistant, so got promoted on my internship year within 7 months. So again, it just shows that it's there, the opportunities are there for you, you just have to push forward and grab them if you want them. Now, in terms of kind of moving through this different path as well, there are so many other jobs around this as well that you might find yourself in. Like one of my friends recently, so he kind of went up this route up to branch manager. He was the branch manager of Stansted Airport, so a really big kind of branch, a really big airport location within the UK. 400, 500 cars, which is really big in terms of kind of capacity and build. Then went into remarketing, which is, I don't even know if it's on here, yeah, maybe on sales, which is when you sell cars, and is now in revenue management. So now he's working on controlling the prices of the hire cars in Spain. So really, you can kind of diversify into so many different areas. And as I'm sure you can imagine, with an organization so big, there really are so many different roles that are needed to support the kind of functions of what everyone does within the daily rental kind of career. Now, my personal kind of advice and kind of insights, I guess, in this is stay in this rental lane, which is the main kind of thing here, as long as possible, because not only will this give you a better grounding and kind of awareness of the business, but it will enable you to learn so much and kind of have that network and that ability to progress quicker, because there are always going to be more opportunities in rental than there are in the other opportunities, because ultimately rental is the bread and butter of what everything at enterprise is based on. So that's just kind of my personal thoughts on this. But again, it just shows you hopefully how varied the opportunities could be at enterprise. So let's move on to the assessments. So what they look for in terms of their kind of assessment materials. So every single question that you are going to be asked either on Wednesday or in a virtual interview moving forward will be based on these 6 core competencies. So these 6 core competencies will make up every single question you could possibly have. So please make sure you write these down if you haven't already. Take a screenshot of the thing if you want to. But what I thought would be quite good now is if we went through these, so you might understand maybe some of the questions that you could get asked, and also maybe some of the answers that they're looking for, or examples of answers that they might be looking for as well. So let's start with customer service. So as I said before, customer service is our way of life. So that is their founding value. So you can imagine why this is probably one of their top core competencies that they look for here. So when talking about customer service, you might get asked questions such as, I don't know, is the customer always right? Now, your personal opinion might be, no, they're not always right. Of course, they're not always right. There are Karens out there, which we know are not always right. We know that. But as a customer, like as working in customer service, you may think that, but your approach might be very different. So to me, for answering that question, my answer would be, they may not always be right, but it's our job within enterprise to ensure that they get great customer service. And we can do that only by communication, by working with them to understand their challenges. And also, if they feel like we're in the wrong, we need to understand how we've got to that stage and where we've maybe let them down, or where we could maybe improve to improve that situation. So really, when they're looking for customer service as well, they're looking for different examples that you might give of where you've given excellent customer service. So you might be asked, when did you last give excellent customer service? Now, you might not have had many kind of jobs in the past, or you might have done. If you've worked in retail, it's often quite easy to think of different examples. But again, think of where you've gone above and beyond for customer service. And to me, I worked in customer service for years, yet even for me, it's hard to really kind of pinpoint those specific examples. So have a think about it. Really start to prepare what that could be. It could be that, I don't know, you worked in retail and someone really wanted a specific jumper from your shop. You didn't have it installed, so you went above and beyond and you went online and you ordered it for them to be delivered to their house the same day. Like that would be that, I'd be like, wow, you really care about that customer. It might be, I know that I've used this example myself before, but when I was a waitress, I remember there was once a time when there was a customer who really wanted like this specific cheese or something on their cheese pie. I can't remember what it was now. So we quickly ran to the shop because it was only around the corner to get it for them. And again, it might seem a bit OTT, but that's what they're looking. They want to see you going above and beyond and really showing customer service is important to you. So think about those examples. You might get asked questions around, when was the last time you had great customer service? What does great customer service look like to you? Now, when I say you might get asked, I'm definitely giving you some example questions here, guys. So if I was you, I'd be memorizing these. But when was the last time that you received excellent customer service? What does excellent customer service look like to you? Now, it's not often that I personally receive excellent customer service because I'm so like tuned in to the enterprise level of customer service, which is next level. So a lot of the time I find myself judging people, quite honestly. Even if they're like busy, I'm like, well, it's been 10 seconds and no one said hello to me. Clearly they hate us. Like, we shouldn't go here anymore. But I had excellent customer service on Friday night when I went to a restaurant, to the point where I actually went and gave a review and feedback, because I think it's important to recognize it when you do. But again, when was the last time that you had that? When was the last time that you thought, wow, like these people are amazing? Because that's the kind of level that you want people walking out of your branch thinking about. So again, something for you to think about. Now, with that in mind, communication, as I'm sure you can agree, is really important. So you might be asked questions around communication styles. You might get asked questions around how would you communicate in this way? And there's been, again, times where we've had customers who might not speak English as their first language, where we've had Google Translate up and we've been writing down kind of words. We might have had people that are deaf, so we've had to kind of write down. But again, it's thinking about how are you flexible in terms of your communication to really kind of support, again, excellent customer service, but also team relations. So how do you communicate within a team? So you might get asked questions around teamwork, or around thinking about I don't know, challenges in communication. So have you had a time where it's been a challenge to communicate with someone? What have you done to overcome that? How have you found ways around that? So again, thinking about different ways that you can relate to in your kind of real life experiences around communication is really important. Now, from what I've said at the beginning, about the kind of challenge that is enterprise, as I said before, it is a challenge, but it's a challenge that I 100% believe is worth it if you're up for the challenge, because you can see the rewards are there to be taken, really. The opportunities are there for you to take, but it doesn't come easy. Like, it doesn't come on a plate. Now, work ethic with that in mind is really important. Now, sometimes people think work ethic is about learning how to work long hours. It's about learning how to, I don't know, do overtime or go above and beyond during your working day. Well, really for me, work ethic is about resilience, and it's about having a positive can-do attitude at all times versus being the negative Nelly in the corner moaning about woe is me because I've had to work until 7 o'clock this evening versus going at 6 or whatever it may be. I think they've changed their hours now, so it might be less than that. But again, work ethic is about having that positive mentality of, okay, this is a challenge, but we're here as a team. So let's crack on. Let's see what we need to do and let's get it done. And let's do what we can to make the customer service excellent or this sales lead excellent, whatever it may be. And again, that work ethic goes really hand in hand with leadership. So you might be asked times about, when did you last show resilience? When did you have to show resilience within a work? You might get asked questions about flexibility. So they might want to be testing your kind of work ethic when it comes to your attitude towards hours and things like that. Because in enterprise, this is something to kind of, I guess, flag, I guess, to be early, but we finish the job when the job is finished. So it just because our hours on the door say 8 till 5, or I think it's 8 till 5 now, it used to be 8 till 6. Just because that's what the hours say on the door, that doesn't mean that that's when we finish. That means that that's when our doors close to customers walking into our branches. Now, there might be times where you might be on a late shift or you might be on an early shift. There might be times where you might just have a couple of extra cars to deliver that you didn't quite get done, but you know that if you don't deliver those cars, that customer's not going to work in the morning because they're relying on you. Or you know you have to go and do that insurance delivery because poor Ethel skidded in the ice this morning and now doesn't have a car to go to her hospital appointment tomorrow. So you know that you're going to have to put in that extra time to get that done because it's important to you that your customers are happy. So again, it's talking about that flexibility and that work ethic in that kind of sense as well. So you might be asked questions around that. Now, all of these kind of, I hope you can see, are kind of very much overlapped. And the one that I really wanted to focus on, though, is around sales. Now, the reason for this is, and I'm sorry if there's anyone on the call that I've already spoke to about this, because you're going to hear the same story again, I'm afraid. But sales aptitude is so important at enterprise, but you might not have sales experience, and that's okay. So I had absolutely zero sales experience when I joined enterprise other than Enactus. And I remember trying to use that as my example and being like, well, I sell Enactus every day to people and this is kind of sales, I guess. And they were like, yeah, a little bit, maybe. Yeah, sure. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. But sales to me is all about relationship building, and it's all about getting to know and providing excellent customer service. So when it comes to sales within enterprise, there are a couple of things that as a graduate management trainee that you will sell to customers. So that will be things like excess protection, roadside assistance protection, and also many kind of upgrades and things like that. Just as an FYI, you don't need to know this just yet. This is just going to help illustrate kind of what I'm going to be talking about in a second. So with all of those things, all of those kind of fit into customer service. But when I first joined enterprise, I didn't make that link. Like, I just thought, well, it's selling, isn't it? Like, do they really want it? Like, I don't want to bug them. Like, I don't want to be annoying, like trying to sell to them all the time and they don't want it. Like, I don't want to be that person that's like, are you sure? Like, I think you need it, because I didn't want them to think. I thought that was bad customer service personally when I first started. Now, whenever I went to kind of sell when I first started, I'd be like, would you like the excess protection? And they'd go, no, thank you. And I'd go, okay, no worries, that's fine. You don't need it. I'm just asking, but it's fine. You don't need it. And that would be that. And my manager kept saying, Amy, why are you not selling? I'm like, well, they didn't want it. They didn't want it, did they? So I asked them and they said no. So that was that. And he was just like, okay, but you need to work on this because your sales are really low. And I'd be like, yeah, I know, but customer service is really important to me. So yeah, left it. And then that all changed on one day. And this is a genuine true story. So I had served a customer and I had the usual conversation I did where, do you want the excess protection to reduce your excess down from 1,000 down to 100, so that if any accidents or anything like that happens, like you don't pay £1,000, you pay £100? And they were like, no, I'll be fine. I'm a good driver. And I was like, I know you are. Like, of course you are. Like, it's fine. You don't need it. And they're like, no, I don't. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right. See you later. Bye. Off they went. Within 10 minutes, I got a phone call. someone in tears. Amy, I've just spoken to you. I've just got one of your cars. Someone's gone into the back of me and they've just driven off. And I've gone, cool. Right. No idea what to do in this situation. I'm going to get my branch manager here because I'm still new at this point. But I'm like, oh God, I know they haven't taken excess protection, because I know that when I said no, I went, that's okay, don't worry about it. So this person, I had to go back on the phone and say, okay, well, you're going to need to come back if you can drive it, because we're going to need to swap your cards, because we don't know if it's drivable, we don't know if it's damaged, like we need to check it. But just so you know, remember we talked about that excess thing. You've got £1,000 excess now, and I need to take £1,000 from you now. And they're like, but someone went into the back of me. And I'm like, I know, but because they drove off and you didn't get their details, you're liable for that £1,000. So you can imagine how awkward that conversation was for me as someone new, as an intern, as a baby who didn't want to have this conversation. Anywho, customer drives back. They're obviously in a bit of a tiz. As they've pulled into the car park, we had bollards by the gate. They've just scraped down the side of the bollard because they've turned in too tight, because they've panicked, because they're trying to get back to me as quick as they can. Now, with damage, it's per incident. It's not the whole car, it's per incident. So can you guess how much they then had to pay? Yeah, £2,000. £2,000. So that's what they then had to pay to me there and then. And I remember I wanted to hide. I was like, I've just seen what's happened outside and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to go in the back room. And my manager was like, you didn't sell because you thought that it was the better customer service thing to do to not sell, because you didn't push it. And now this customer's paid £2,000. So can you understand now why the sales are important? And I was like, yes, I can understand this now. But I had to sit there in front of this woman who was crying her eyes out, because if I remember it correctly, I think it must have been around the end of October, November time. So it was coming towards Christmas, and I'm taking £2,000 off this person. I don't know about you, I don't have £2,000 lying around for fun, just to give to a car rental company that I'm never going to see again, on a car I'm never going to see again. I don't have that. But this is the conversation I had to have. So all of a sudden, my whole attitude towards sales changed, because I was like, I am never going to put myself in this situation again. So now every time I sold from then onwards, I was like, look, I know you're a good driver, but it's not you that I'm worried about. It's everybody else on the road that's going to drive and hit you maybe, and then drive off, and then you're liable. Or it's every bollard that you don't see that you might by accident hit into. That's why I'm giving you this excess protection. And quite honestly, and this is kind of an insider thing, which you wouldn't necessarily say to a customer, but quite honestly, yes, it's a revenue generated thing, the sales that you generate. But if you think about it, if a customer crashed, would you rather get £1,000 from them or £100 from them? Which would you rather? The £1,000, wouldn't you? Because if, say, for example, the damages from that car were £1,500, well, I'd much rather have a £1,000 contribution from that customer than a £100 contribution from that customer. So really, it's not helpful for us if they do crash. Obviously the odds and the kind of the ratios of those that kind of take excess protection versus those that actually have accidents, that there are that kind of probability there. But ultimately, it kind of balances with that cost of damage versus that cost of the sale. So it genuinely is purely for customer service reason. And that's the kind of lens that you, in order to be a good salesperson, you look through, because it's about that relationship build. And it's about stopping customers going through that awful position, which if I wish I could tell you that happened once and that was it. It doesn't. It happens all of the time, where customers will say, no, I don't need it, because they think that you're trying to, I don't know, I've heard lots of things like a con or a scam, and it genuinely is, and it's there to protect them, to stop them paying £1,000. So again, when you're thinking of sales, that's what it is. So it's about relationship build, it's about you building trust. And again, when you're using your examples that you might use in this area, think about that sales kind of approach, that introduction, fact find, and finding out about the customer, then how you present, and then that close. That as a process is something that's really important. So again, think about those examples as you go through. So hopefully on this section, we've gone through some good examples about the different kind of areas. But again, if anyone has any questions, please chuck them in the chat and I'm more than happy to answer them. And then just finally, I guess, around the application process. So as part of Enactus, you miss the whole of the online application process. So the only reason you need to do that is so that they can get you on their system. So they might ask you to go back and just put yourself on the online application just so you can kind of get through onto their system. But as an Enactus student, you fast track all the way through to the virtual interview, which tomorrow, Wednesday, is what will be happening if you've signed up for that day, or if you just kind of get an interview date in general. Now, their virtual interview will be with a recruiter from across the country. They are based kind of all over the place, and will give you a real good kind of insight into some of the questions that I've asked you or gone through today, but also give you an opportunity to ask them any questions as well that you might have. Now, a lot of the time, the strength of an interview is based on the questions. So thinking about things like, for me, really good questions at the end of an interview would be things like, is there anything that I've answered today where you feel that I've not given a fully complete answer that you would like me to dig in a little bit further on? And it then gives them an opportunity to say, well, actually, you didn't give me a great customer service answer. So are you all right to revisit that again? And it gives you that opportunity there and then to redo any answers if you need to, or add and kind of fill in any answers if you've got that process. Another good question is, so is there anything more I can do today and before we move on to the next stage of the assessment process is to convince you of my application to move forward or to gain the job? Again, ask for the job. Like if you're in an interview process, ask for it. If nothing else, that interviewer will be like, oh, they've got something about them that they're asking for this, because so many people go, no questions. And then they potter. But if you even just ask that one question, if I was on the other side, I'd go, wow, okay, this has taken me by surprise, but cool, good. Yeah, no, I can answer that question. And I might say, do you know what? It actually, your approach, like, or I don't know, I wasn't quite convinced on this, like, do you want to try now? Because otherwise the alternative is they will go away thinking that and you have no chance to rectify that. So again, something to maybe think about. Obviously, you can go through the kind of usual questions such as, when do I expect to hear from you? Is there kind of, what's the next stages? Are there any top tips you might have for the next stage, etc.? That might be good. But again, make sure you ask questions because it shows that you've done your research and that you've really looked into looking for the job. Now, the second stage for you guys, if you get through to the branch visit, now this is something that is really important to kind of think about and understand. So you're, in terms of the actual interview part of this session, you will get asked questions that are very, yes, of course I can catch you, give me 1 second. You will get asked questions around like this, very similar things to what I've kind of gone through today and about those kind of core competencies that we've spoken about. But the minute that you walk into that branch, your interview starts, and they're going to leave you for a good half an hour, 45 minutes with somebody else within the branch, but that's still your interview. Be under no illusion that that's just because they're busy or they're doing something else and they're waiting to start your interview. It's not. It's to see how you interact within that environment from the minute you walk in. Now, I've seen, as a branch manager, we did lots of branch interviews over the many years that I've done, and I've seen people spectacularly fail at that point, but also been super amazing, maybe giving me rubbish interview answers, but I've been like, do you know what? Off the basis of that beginning bit, I'm going to give them the job because they've proved to me that they're doing, like, they've got something about them that's great here. So what they're looking for in that branch interview, in that branch visit, is they're looking for you and your personality. They're looking for you to show how you interact with other team members. They're looking to see how you interact with customers. Like if a customer walks in, do you ignore them? Or would you say, hi, like, I'm here on my interview? Like I've had people do that, and like the customers been more interested in their interview outcomes than they have sometimes. Like they've been really involved in the process. But that to me shows me that when it actually comes to real life, you're going to be absolutely fine when you're in a customer environment with my customers in the branch. Are you asking like kind of curious questions to the trainees, asking about their progression, asking about their folders, their development, what they're doing? Are you asking about the sales in the branch or how the branch operations are? Again, please don't underestimate that your eyes will be on you in this section. And again, it's a great opportunity for you to kind of get comfortable in the environment, but also find out questions that you want to know about this kind of area as well. And then that's when you have the interview with your area manager. And as I said, they are the kind of going to be asking the same kind of questions, but they are your decider. They will be the ones who will be in charge, like your hiring manager for the job. So again, something to bear in mind about who you're kind of impressing and who you're kind of looking to kind of obviously get towards making sure you kind of get in the job and asking for that job. So Katya asked about what asked to repeat about the question about getting the job. So yeah, so you can word it in whichever way you want, but basically ask for the job. So say to them at the end of the interview, is there anything that I've said today or anything you would like me to elaborate on which would help me in the success of getting this job? Or is there anything that would stop you from progressing me through to the next stage of this job kind of now? Because this will be something that's really important. And again, you understanding that information to really be able to either persuade them otherwise, because ultimately you're selling yourself in this position, aren't you? That's what an interview is. So ask them if there's anything that they're not 100% sure, and so you can really then think about how you can address that in the time. So Tom, when will the time slots for interviews, no problem, Katya, be given for Wednesday? My understanding was that they'd already been given, but if they haven't, I will chase now with Claire and make sure you get them either by the end of the day or first thing tomorrow. You've signed up for a certain time, haven't you? Either AM or PM, is that right? Yeah, super. So I will chase Claire now, who's the talent acquisition manager for the UK, and ask her the question and find out if I can get any kind of more concrete information for you. Super. So that's kind of it in terms of the presentation, but I'm more than happy for the next kind of 10 minutes or so to answer any questions. If anyone's got any, feel free to either pop it in the chat or come off mute, whichever would be most useful. But hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight and a bit of an insider knowledge to help you with your interview. Has anybody got any questions?
I'd actually like to start if you don't mind. Or just, sorry, Elizabeth just popped in a question and then I'll just ask after that.
So can you list all the questions we would be asked again? No, I cannot list all the questions because there was many that we went through. But I can definitely give you the core competencies, which are communication, flex. In fact, let's just go back to that slide and then we can leave them up for you. There we go. So these are the core competencies. So you'll be asked questions around these kind of 6 core areas, but also just make sure you've got examples to really support on all 6 of these so that you can give an example of where you've shown great work ethic. Enactus in itself, team, is great work ethic. Don't forget that. Use Enactus as much as you possibly can because they understand the value of Enactus. Like they understand how great it is, but use these kind of examples. So for example, for me, work ethic, well, Enactus is a lot kind of commitment across as well as my university degree, and you might be working, I know like a couple of you are working part-time as well. And I know it's very busy in Christmas at the moment in Aldi, isn't it, Amy? Must be very busy, yes. So you've got lots of different commitments, but Enactus gives you that ability. You understand the importance of what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, and you drive in that work ethic. You might have examples of customer service. Now, your customer service examples, if you don't have a part-time job or you haven't had a part-time job in retail or hospitality or something like that, that is specifically customer service, you might be able to just talk about the importance of why customer service is so important to the growth and the kind of brand of a business, which, as you saw from their founding values, brands are the most important thing that enterprise own, and they understand the importance of that. But your customer service examples might be for your beneficiaries in your projects, in ensuring that you're giving great customer service, i.e. project delivery, to your beneficiaries. Now, that's a very similar thing that you might be able to pull on. So there's lots of different things that you can use as your examples within Enactus, but again, write them down, get them organized so that you can think about that. Will the recruiters know you're an Enactus student? Yes, they will, because you'll have come through this. If you haven't applied for the day on Wednesday, make sure that you email get hired. I'll put it into the chat in just a second. Get hired at EHI. Oh, that is not how you spell that. Get hired at EHI.com, because that, if you email that will give you that fast track. So if you let them know that you want to apply for the graduate management position at that email address, and say like what university, what team you're from, They will then be able to put you through to the fast track. They will check with us though. So like if someone isn't an Enactus student and says that they are, they will check with us here at Enactus to make sure of that. So just as an FYI, I'm conscious there are lots of questions going in here, and Dina now. So I don't know if you wanted to go first. I don't know if I've said your name correctly. Yes, you.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Just to Tom's question. I think like I personally know that I think I got a time slot for like immediately got contacted like 1 or 2 days after I filled out the form. So
Okay.
I already have my time slot for Wednesday. So it would definitely be like a good idea to look into that.
Okay.
Just to make sure that he specifically got it on.
Okay, Tom, so I can maybe just make sure that you're on there. So that's really good. That's really good information. Thank you. How do I say your name?
My surname or like my name.
It comes up on Zoom as Zeno Christoph, is that right?
Yeah, so Zeno is my name basically. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so
my surname is just
okay.
it's not worth it basically.
Oh no, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Tom, I will find out about the times and dates for you. So I think that somebody else said, do we need to dress smart for the interview? Yes, I would. Like you're on an interview, like think about what's in your background, like think about your personal brand. Like what impression do you want them walking away with? Do you want them walking away thinking that you're a messy student because your bed's not made and you got your clothes on the floor? Or do you want them thinking that you're a professional that's ready to take on a graduate job because you're smart? You might even have right now, there is lots of rubbish behind me, but I've got my bike, I've got everything going on here on my background. But again, you might want to put a background on to make it seem more professional. But yeah, definitely dress smart. Again, it's all about your brand. The amount of people that I have, and rightly or wrongly, you can judge, but that I have thought on the spot, oh, they're not dressed very smartly. I'm not sure they're taking it seriously enough. And then naturally, then maybe had a bit more of a negative outlook on their interview as a result. Now, would it be the difference between someone getting the job or not? Of course not, because as long as they hit the 6 core competencies, of course they will still get a job. But again, think about that personal brand and about how you want to come across. Definitely something to think about. So there's a couple of people that haven't got their interview time still, so I will chase that. It's no problem, and we will make sure that everyone's got them. I think, are there any other questions that I've not answered? Amy, sorry.
Oh yeah, no, it's fine. And I emailed you before. I'm working till 2 p.m. on Wednesday. I think I emailed you asking for a later slot. Just a reminder.
Have you got a slot yet?
I don't know how long they're doing it for.
Have you got a slot yet?
Oh, I haven't heard anything back.
That's
no.
Fine. That's no problem. It's no problem. I will get, for those people that haven't got the slots yet, I'll get in touch with Claire now. I'll text her now and make sure that we know what's going on, and we'll get you your slots as soon as possible. Amy, yours is fine because we can speak to Laura anyway, can't we? Worst case.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's no problem. So then where do we have to sign to take the interview? What do you mean, where do we have to sign? Do you mean in terms of where do you need to register? Because if so, that's in the weekly roundup, but it's also in the form. Well, it's in the form so that you would need to kind of register for the thing. So I can try and find that. Or if you ask what team are you from, Maria? You can type it if it's easier. Okay, BCU. So ask, if you're not in the BCU WhatsApp group, ask maybe Prav to forward it on to you, but there's a form to register, a Google form, register on there, and then we can send the information over for you. So you've got everything on there. Super. So I am conscious of the time, and so we will need to send to kind of finish the session now. Please do reach out though if there is anything I can help with. You're more than welcome to email me. It's probably the quickest way to get hold of me at the moment. But I will just put my email address in here. But if you need anything at all, please do let me know. And if you've got any kind of questions that are unanswered, again, just chuck them across and I'd be more than happy to either connect you with someone from Enterprise or kind of help you myself. But it's been great to have you all on here. I'm sorry that I've just talked at you. There's lots of information I wanted to try and get across. Hopefully it's been useful and given you a bit of an insight, and fingers crossed that you guys will all do really well in your interview either on Wednesday or if you have an interview in the future as well. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Amy. See you.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.